Welcome to Progress Agentic RAG. Progress Agentic RAG is a comprehensive RAG as a service platform that enables you to build intelligent document search and question answering systems for your knowledge solutions. In this video, we will be guiding you through creating workflows in Progress Agentic RAG, including providing an overview of Agentic RAG solutions and Agentic workflows, creating a basic Agentic RAG solution with Progress Agentic RAG using the workflow feature, and finally, how to deploy our finished workflow so that our users can begin using the agent. A couple notes before proceeding. When creating an Agentic RAG solution, like the one in this video, you will need to create a knowledge box and load it with your documents. Refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation for more information. In addition, this video is part of a series where we create workflows for different use cases. We recommend combining the different techniques described in these videos to create an agentic workflow that best suits your environment. You can create Agentic RAG solutions with Progress Agentic RAG by using Agentic workflows. Agentic workflows for Progress Agentic RAG are automated processes that allow knowledge systems to return more meaningful results to complex questions and adapt their approach based on the task. Instead of simply retrieving documents and generating answers, they can be designed to orchestrate complex multi-source operations with decision-making capabilities. To help put the advantages of solutions created using agentic workflows in perspective, let's briefly compare them against traditional RAG solutions. First, traditional RAG solutions fetch results from only a single knowledge source, while agentic solutions can access multiple internal and external sources in a coordinated operation. The sources traditional RAG use are typically the same knowledge base for every query, while agentic solutions can select from a variety of sources to properly answer the question. For traditional RAG, the retrieval is done once. This means if the results do not successfully answer the query, there is no way to improve them, while agentic solutions autonomously assess results to make sure they are relevant. If they are not, the solution attempts additional retrievals until it gets what it needs to produce an answer. Finally, traditional RAG is limited to simple question and answer integrations, while agentic solutions can use complex reasoning and synthesis to provide responses to prompts. For our example, we have a knowledge box that stores PDF documents that contain information about movies and biographical information about actors. We are going to start by observing how our traditional RAG service performs when querying our knowledge box. Then, we are going to build an Agentic RAG workflow with a smart agent and see how that performs. To complete our example, our workflow must be able to access our knowledge box, use a smart agent to plan our responses, and be accessed through our website. Next, let's execute some queries using a traditional RAG service. Using a traditional RAG service, we can query the knowledge box and successfully return information about certain basic queries. For example, if we were to ask, what is the release date of Star Wars? We would successfully get the following answer, 1977. Traditional RAG worked in this instance because the answer is directly addressed in a single document. But what if we needed the agent to understand the totality of the knowledge box and to determine the answer using multiple documents? For example, what if we asked, does one of the main actors in Singing in the Rain have a child that was in Star Wars movies? Our knowledge box has personal information about the actors, such as their children, in some documents, but information about the cast for movies is stored in a separate set of documents. Let's try the query. As you can see, the query does not return a valid result, and even worse, it might hallucinate a response when encountering similar situations. Despite having all the information that we need to answer this question in the knowledge box, a traditional RAG solution is unable to generate an appropriate answer. This is because it cannot plan the response across multiple documents in the knowledge box. To get this query to work, we need to create an Agentic RAG solution that plans across multiple documents to generate an accurate response. We can do this by creating a workflow with Progress Agentic RAG that pairs our knowledge base with a smart agent. Let's begin. First, we will need to create our workflow. Navigate to your Progress RAG account. Then click Create a Retrieval Agent. In the agent's profile window, provide an agent name. Then select your region. We will name our agent test and select USA region. Next, from the Agent Workflows view, click the Add Workflow button. Provide a name and, optionally, a description for your workflow. I'm going to use movie and actors workflow for the name and provide a brief description. The canvas for your workflow opens. In this view, you can add and configure nodes to build your workflow. Notice the 4 stages that are used to build workflows: pre-process, retrieval context, generation, and post-process. In addition, it is worth noting the Test Agent tool in the corner. With the Test Agent tool, you can instantly specify and run prompts against your workflow as you make updates. This allows you to directly observe the effect your design choices have on your results. Let's start with the pre-processing stage. In general, the pre-processing stage allows you to specify rules to make the user query to perform better, although currently only the rephrasing agent is supported. The rephrasing agent offers a number of options to help you to refine the user question, including specifying user information, incorporating user history, and defining synonyms for keywords. The pre-process stage is useful in many scenarios. However, we will not need it for our example. Given that, let us move on to the retrieval context stage. Next, the retrieval context stage is the stage used to configure how the workflow retrieves data from one or more of your sources, such as AI agents, databases, and knowledge boxes. In addition, you can add and configure decision-making behaviors to improve your results. Let's start by configuring our sources of data. First, click the Add button to add a node, then select Smart Agent. When configured, the Smart Agent will help plan our responses and direct our queries to the appropriate documents in our knowledge source. For our example problem, the default configuration will be sufficient. However, it's worth noting a few fields that you might want to configure for your environment. First, from the Smart Agent view, scroll down to the Extra Prompt field. This field is used to provide a prompt that explains which nodes should be used to retrieve what types of information. You will want to use this if you are using multiple knowledge sources with your agent. Next, let's discuss the Planning Mode option. This option specifies how your Smart Agent plans to retrieve data for a query. When set to reactive, the agent returns results once it believes it has enough information to answer the query. This option offers the best performance, but it might not always produce the best answer for larger knowledge sources and more complicated queries. Conversely, when set to Plan Execute, the agent first defines a plan, including the information needed, the questions it should ask the sources, and the different possibilities to consider. Next, the agent executes the plan and then generates a response. Essentially, the agent tries to be more thorough during discovery, but it does so at the expense of performance. Finally, take note of the context validation, rephrase model, planner model, and executor model fields. These fields are used to select the LLM used for different node operations. For our example, it's fine to use the default. However, once you are ready to begin building your own workflows or move to production, you might want to select premium or specialized models to improve your results. Now, let's connect our agent to our knowledge base. On the Smart Agent node, click the Add button next to the Registered Agents branch, then select Knowledge Box Basic Ask. This node allows us to access the information stored in our knowledge box. On the Knowledge Box Ask view, add a description of the node in the Description field. The description informs the Smart Agent what kind of information can be retrieved from this knowledge box. Therefore, it's critical that you provide sufficient information for the agent to understand the contents of the node. For the purposes of demonstration, we will use something simple, such as information about movies and actors. However, for your environment, you will likely want to provide a more elaborate value. The description field acts like a prompt. Therefore, your value can consist of complex, plain language descriptions, including examples. Next, in the Functions field, select Ask Agent. Finally, scroll down to the Sources field and select your knowledge box. Then click Save. In the generation stage, you configure how your retrieved data is synthesized into an answer. You can add prompts, rules, decision-making flows, and more to best address your use case. For our example, we will just be adding a basic summarize node to generate a summary of our retrieved results. Similar to the other nodes, click the Add button for the generation stage, then select Summarize. In the Summarize view, you can see a number of options available to us, including changing to different model or incorporating prompts to help generate our summary. However, for our example, the default settings are sufficient. This completes our workflow. Now that we are done, we should test it. Click the Test Agent feature button. In the input field, enter a query. Remember our original question. Does one of the main actors in Singing in the Rain have a child that was in Star Wars movies? The test agent returns a summary of results from each stage, and at the bottom, you can see that Debbie Reynolds from Singing in the Rain has a daughter, Carrie Fisher, in the Star Wars movies. As you can see, the agent successfully retrieved and analyzed the necessary information across documents and generated the correct answer. Our workflow is now working and is ready to publish. Now that we've successfully tested our workflow, I wanted to take a quick look at the final stage, post-processing. This stage currently provides two optional tools, external calls and REMI evaluation. The external calls tool takes your finished workflow and creates external REST calls that can be used to initiate external processes. This could be used for a number of different applications, including triggering automated workflows or notifying people on your team to take action. While selecting REMI evaluation allows you to use the REMI tool to evaluate the performance of your workflow. This can be very helpful when building and refining your knowledge services. If you are interested in learning more about these, refer to the documentation for Progress Agentic RAG. Now that your workflow is complete, it is time to deliver it to your users. You can deliver your workflow using several different methods. One option is via the API. You can use this method by integrating the WebSocket endpoint in a custom front-end application. Another option is via an MCP server, which can be done by connecting the agent to any MCP-compliant application. And the final option is to embed the agent as a widget on your website. For our example, we will demonstrate creating a widget for our website. For more information on the API and MCP server options, refer to the Progress Agentic RAG documentation. To create the widget, select the Widgets tab, then click Create Widget. In the window, provide the name of your widget. I'm calling the widget Film Buff Tool. Next, select the workflow you want to assign to this widget. For example, the name of our workflow, Movies and Actors. Optionally, you can select the theme of the widget and test it. To retrieve the code for your widget, click Embed Widget. Then, in the code snippet window, click Copy. When you are ready, paste the widget code into the HTML of your website. That's it. You've created and delivered your first agentic workflow. Thanks for watching. For additional resources, see the description below.